is an African. And so therefore, today we're celebrating the Human Day, the Human Family Day, which is Africa Day. So today is Africa Day globally. It is celebrated globally. It's a day that the 54 African countries that gave birth to the 8 billion people all over the world recame. Because Africa was always free. Then temporarily, it was hijacked. Temporarily hijacked. And then the leaders came back and said, when you have your days, you hijack it briefly, we're taking it back. And they did. Even though it was blood, tears, and sweat, but they did. Today, all the 54 African nations are independent, thriving nations. Let's give them a hand. You know, Africa is the only continent under the sun, only continent that sits in the middle of the universe. The only continent. It possesses over 42% of world's water. It has the central climate in the world. And natural resource, it is number one. Number one. It is the cradle of civilization. Everything you cherish, whether it's a religion, or culture, or philosophy, knowledge, whatever, found its root out of the motherland. That is the home of the universe. Therefore, we are extremely excited. That's why we don't care about race. Some people care about race, we don't. Some people care about ethnicity, we don't. Because we're the map of the world. And the world came in different stages. Gorgeous diversity. All found its roots out of the continent. So today we're excited, and we're here at the Africa Center. I want to, before I say anything about Africa Center, we gotta pay homage. We give credit where credit is due. Last year, a brother that I know for a long time, we had a conversation, lengthy conversation, and he told me there is no, Africa doesn't have a better friend than Turkey. I say yes. Turkey has embassies all over Africa. I think every country. And Turkish airline goes to more destinations on the continent than any other airline. And Turkey's investment on the continent is almost rival to none. And what makes Turkey even unique, Turkey is not former colonizer. Turkey is not a former colonizer. So, Brother Ibrahim said, because of these facts, we want to host Africa Day at Turkey House. Would you mind? And then we had a beautiful meeting with the Turkish Consul General. They saw us around. They said, this is your home. And last year, those of you celebration, you saw what happened last year. You saw what happened last year. It was unique. It was unique. It was beautiful. And they said we'll do it every year. But when you plan, God laughs. Because we didn't calculate that there are elections. And today, in the last several weeks, Turkey, like many other countries, has been going through elections. And now, the primary is over, now they're going to run, runoff. So we mutually agree that it is better for them to focus on the politics at home and help the people who are voting than to take the risk of hosting Africa Day. And that is why today we're here. So I just want everybody to stand up. Brother Ivan. So what I want that to Turkey's house, and before I begin, I just want you to greet people.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mama, how are you? You and I go back many, many, many years. You look younger like the first day I met you. Musa, it's a great honor and privilege to address this great audience this evening. And yes, we had a great event last year. And as Musa indicated, Turkey has elections. It's a very important election. And unfortunately, because of this, the Council General and the Turkish House is not available this year. Plus, we also had a security issue. And just weeks ago, we've been getting intelligence, or the Turkish diplomats were getting intelligence of a security concern at the Turkish House. And they were right, because on Monday morning, the Turkish House was attacked. All 12 of its windows were broken on 46th Street. And this man is still on the run. And I appreciate the Council General reaching out, because we could not afford anyone getting hurt, and we had no idea when an attack could happen, but it did. So it's a great honor and privilege. Turkey holds a great deal of importance to the continent of Africa. Turkey does not discriminate against Africa or our African brothers. President Erdogan has said many, many times, Turkey is not interested in the natural wealth of the people of Africa. The wealth belongs to no one except the people of Africa. Turkey did not go to Africa. Turkey was invited again into Africa with a win-win policy. If the African people win, Turkey will stay there. If the African children do not win, Turkey will not be there. And that has been the policy so far, and it will continue to be the policy. And hopefully next year and moving forward, brother, we'll continue our relationship under the Turkish House. With that, thank you very much, Musa. Great event. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim. So, we gotta give them credit. We gotta give them credit. You can never ever forget your friend that came in difficult times. So now that Turkish part is over, we're home now. We're home. We're at the Africa Saturday now, and all of you see how beautiful it is. Yes. And I'm sure you feel home. Don't you? You feel home. This is home. And from today on, we're gonna make it home. This Santa belongs to us, and therefore we have to make it home. We have to make it a place where everything Africa and African, the first place you think of is Africa House. It's only fair. And from today on, that will be the reality. So when Dr. Jenny met me, I'm sure she went home and told her husband, I finally met the craziest of the craziest of the craziest. But I think he's making sense. And she invited me for lunch, and then we were having lunch. All of a sudden, her husband showed up. I said, wow, okay, she had a bodyguard. And then we had a great lunch, and she said, you know what? Before you go back to the Bronx, I want to take you back to the building when we show you the building, so that at least you know what we're talking about. So we came to the building, and she saw us around, and I said, it's beautiful. So from today on, there will be new campaign to make sure that this is home. Whether you're a president or ambassador or diplomat or religious leader or community leader, you always think of the Africa Sun as a destination for whatever endeavor that you're doing. So briefly before I bring up the Africa Sun, You know, we're here again celebrating Africa Day, May 25th. It is being celebrated universally. Some celebrating it yesterday, some will celebrate it tomorrow in June. Africa Day is so popular now. They're running out of days to celebrate it. But I just want to give you good news. Today is Africa Day. Any other day is a capital. Today, May 25th is Africa Day, and May 25th is our day. You know, in the 90s and early 2000s, you know, as Pan-Africanists, we were frustrated that the African leaders are not giving priorities, you know, to these 2 days, Africa Day and African Union Day. And because of that, we mobilized the African community. And in 2006, we were able to place a bill or resolution at the City Council under the leadership of Annabelle Palmer, who was the City Council of District 18 in the Bronx. And that resolution passed unanimously, except the one person who was not there, but 50 out of 51 council members said yes. African Union Day, September 9, ratified. Let's give them a hand. Yeah. And it was so beautiful that when they celebrated African Union Day, the chamber was packed. It was one of the most beautiful celebrations of diversity there. And then we said, wow, this feels good. We have one more day left. Then we went back to the drawing board. And in 2007, we reached out to Hakeem Jeffrey, who was then an assemblyman in Brooklyn. We told Hakeem Jeffrey, Africa Day had not been formally celebrated in the state of New York. And New York is home to the African descendants, more so than any other place. Forget about the African immigrants, but the African descendants. And Hakeem Jeffrey himself, you know, came from Cape Verde. The parents or grandparents come from Cape Verde, West Africa. So Hakeem Jeffrey said, okay, I'll change that. And Hakeem Jeffrey put a resolution in Albany, and it was unanimously passed between the Assembly and the Senate in 2007, recognizing Africa Day, which is today, a day to be celebrated in the state of New York. And from that day until today, we have been celebrating it. And on that day, May 25th, I don't know how many of you were there, but we took buses from New York City, and we drove to Albany, and we had some of the most celebratory moments. And, you know, the keynote speaker was a man from New Jersey who hailed from Haiti. Dr. I mean, it's a lawyer, but I forgot her name. But he's one of the men from New Jersey who did a fabulous job. And not only did we celebrate him, but for the first time, we took African Union mission to the United Nations. We took them to Albany. And they were honored on the floor with the plaque and proclamation for the first time. So these are the milestones that we have achieved in making sure that these days are formally recognized and publicly celebrated. And from that, you know, moment until now, we have been doing it. Now, a lot of people are criticizing, but today is official, and today is formal, and today is ours. So, you know, we're very, very grateful. Now, let me briefly say who we are. Last year, you see this beautiful magazine, colorful magazine. Someone get this on. The ones who went. This magazine is just produced. And you should look at it. You should look at the magazine. And then it'll tell you what is coming to Africa. Africa is not a place for charity. Africa is not a poor continent. Africa is the richest, most endowed with resources in the world. Why are we designing programs to do fundraising for people that are making money out of Africa? I mean, it is so mind-boggling that we are risking our lives. You know, they're interviewing these African kids who are risking their lives to go anywhere else but Africa, and they're saying, we know the danger, but we cannot stay here, we have to leave. And because they're leaving now, Africa becomes a continent with brain drain. The brain is not there. You have more Nigerian doctors and accountants and lawyers and teachers outside of Nigeria than in Nigeria. You have more nurses of Ghanaian descent than outside of Ghana than in Ghana. You know, these are the things that we need to change, and these are the things that we are beginning to change. And that's why celebrating Africa Day in Africa House makes that more sense. And I think the more we come here and celebrate, I think the more we realize that what we're looking for outside of Africa, actually we left it back home. So last year we went to Africa and we took a group. Queen Mother, was the leader, and Mary was there. And we had the most beautiful trip, both in Senegal and Gambia. Since that trip, 3 most transformative relations between Africa and the African descendants happened. 3. I'm not going to name them, but 3 most powerful things happened. And even Mary, who went there for the first time, just came back from Senegal because she went last year. And then, they on the story. And out of that, then we started the Daylight Africa magazine. And I hope that you will get a copy so that you will see where we're heading. With that being said, I want you to know one thing. We're not going to beg for anything concerning Africa anymore. All right? And we're not negotiating with anyone about the destination of Africa. And we are not going to be under the mercy of any government, whether it is known or whether it is behind the scenes. The neo-colonialism then will be cut completely. That I promise you, because the young Pan-Africanists will not allow such a betrayal of the sacrifices of those who gave it all. All the African leaders who stood up for Africa were assassinated by the help of who? CIA, right there in New York City. And until today, Africans are trying to create a single currency, single that forgets what? The neo-colonialism say, hell no, because we're making billions of dollars off of you, and if you are completely independent, then we will lose that. And those days are numbered now. Those days are numbered now. Malcolm said, by all means necessary. Africa will not beg for Africa's protection, Africa's destiny, and Africa's independence, and Africa's liberation, and Africa's resources. Those days are gone. And we're here, and we're going to collaborate with the Africa Center to making sure that people like Hakeem Jeffrey, who is now the minority leader, will champion bills and policies that are beneficial to the continent. Reciprocity. No longer, you have behind the scene military operations targeting individual African leaders who are organizing for the liberation of their continent to be assassinated. We cannot do it anymore because technology allows us to understand what is going on and will take action. France, as you can tell, is facing a huge challenge in West Africa. Because the youth said, you have your days, you've done your job, it is our time now, and you're not going to control anymore. Get your military out, get your banking system out, we're going to be in charge of our destiny. And that will not go away. So today we're celebrating our independence, but complete independence. And with that being said, our co-host is Dr. Chin. We're here at her house. I want her to come, not only to greet us, but to introduce, her partner, so they can talk a little bit about what the Center is and what they need from us and what we can do together, to make this Center how they want. And then after that, then we'll continue with the program. Thank you all, and God bless you, and this is my opinion. Dr. Chin.
here at the Africa Center this evening. I'm going to very quickly introduce the Chief Executive Officer of the Africa Center, Dr. Uzodimma Igala.
That was great.
Thank you, Chini. Thank you, Musa. Good evening, everybody. Y'all know, come on, this is African Day. Okay, we're going to try it one more time. Good evening, everybody. That's what I like to hear on Africa Day. That's what makes me feel really good. It's so good to see everybody here, to welcome everyone here to the Africa Center. As Musa said, this is a very special place. This house is your house. The Africa Center is your place. It's a place of community, it's a place of connectivity, it's a platform for African ideas and creativity, it's a platform for us. It's a home where you can feel comfortable, you can kick off your shoes, you can relax, you can dance, you can sing. We can be who we are as Africans in this country, as we represent and show up as Africans everywhere in the world. So I'm grateful to all of you for being here. Thank you so, so much. Just very quickly, the Africa Center, we are a 501c3 nonpartisan institution that really is focused on this idea of building community and building us. And so we wanted to make sure that you come back for our programs, whether it's exhibitions, whether it's talks. We just had one on Sudan. Come back this weekend. I'm sure Dr. Chinyo Ogunro, who's our COO, will tell you a little bit more about what it is that we do. But I want to make sure that you make this a stop and a destination for you, for everybody that you know, especially for people who want to learn about, who want to live in, inhabit what it means to be an African, both from the continent and from the diaspora, because that's where our strength is as a people. And so, again, I'm so grateful to all of you for being here. I'm so grateful to you, Musa, for the celebration. And I'm grateful to us as Africans for being strong, resilient, and for making sure the world knows who we are and knows our power. So happy Africa Day, everybody. Thank you so much. And let me turn over to Chinyo Ogunro, who will take us through.
Good evening once again, everybody, and I want to thank you very much for being here with us this evening. How many of you have been to the Africa Center before? Please raise your hand. Fantastic. And how many of you, this is your very first time here at the Africa Center? Wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Thank you all so much for understanding our position here and for showing up. What it is that we're here to celebrate is really the formation, the 60-year formation of the African Union. And part of what we do here at the Africa Center is ensure that we are bringing people together. We seek to shape a vision for the future of Africa. And what exactly does that mean? That means that we want to collaborate, we want to partner, we want to serve as a platform for bringing individuals and organizations together to really champion who we are as Africans, the work that we do to uplift the continent, to uplift the diaspora, and to uplift African people worldwide. So I'm grateful for all of you being here today. I don't want to take up too much time. I typically have a relatively long speech that I give, but I'm going to keep it brief, keep it short, and just really welcome you here today and thank you for your time. So welcome and thank you. I'll give Sheikh Musa some time to come on back. I kept it much more simple and much shorter than I'm sure he was expecting to have.
I thought you were going to say more. Anyway, thank you so much. You brought good camera, so that's why I was trying to get it out. Thank you so much. So we have in our midst, we have some individuals that represent organizations, some individuals that represent organizations that represent the entire nation. And they're here, and we will introduce them to you. Do not go anywhere else. You got to stay here. So we're home. And also, we cook a lot of good food. Jollof rice, but this is special. This is a special, and when you test it, you'll know it's healthier and it's better for you. Make sure that you enjoy whatever we have there, and I'm sure you will thank us later. With that. Let me bring up, before we bring up our community leaders, and before we also ask another individual that is present, I want to bring up, one of the travelers, to Africa last year, who went to Africa for the first time. To really talk about her experience traveling, to Senegal and Gambia for the first time, and what she saw and how she felt, and what she's planning on doing with that knowledge. We are making this trip not because we're travel agencies. We're not tourism company. We are Pan-Africanists who decided that the world needs to understand where they come from, the world. And because of that, we reach out to every African government, every one of them. And we told them that September 2nd to September 9th, from 2022 onward, will be designated as Daylight Africa Week. Every country we reach out to. And last year, Senegal, Gambia, and Nigeria took the three, celebrated the fourth Daylight Africa Week. So among those who went to the maiden Daylight Africa Week are here, and they will speak to you. This way, at least, you will understand, the experience, about it. So I just want to bring up Mary, who was one of the travelers. Come to them, you'll see it right here. So Mary, come and tell the audience about your experience, traveling to his country. So Mary was one of the travelers to Senegal.
Hello, everyone. It was my first trip to Africa, and I was starstruck. Well, first I'm going to tell you the highlight of my trip was going to the crocodile farm and petting a crocodile. The crocodile was very docile. It did not attack me. But besides myself and the crocodile, I met many, many nice people there. And Musa already said some of the things that I wanted to say. First, Africa is a continent among the richest, if not the richest, in the world in terms of raw materials, resources, and opportunities for us. We met with a group of people who lived in the Gambia, who were of African descent from various places in the world, from Jamaica, from England, from the United States, who made Gambia their second home, who brought their skills there to teach the community. And they promoted others to come there, that it was a good experience, a great opportunity to share our talents and resources, those of us who are from the diaspora, to return to the continent of Africa. There is a need for people with certain skills. So we found out that we can invest in Africa, in its people. And we also have many historical and cultural events that we went to. In Gambia, we were literally guided by one of the high-ranking members of the Cultural Commission in Gambia, Mr. Sheikh Jallo, who was an excellent guide. We celebrated the culture of Africa on African Union Day, seeing very many things, for instance, like the lion dance and other dances and events. We went to museums to learn about the history of Senegambia region. One museum in particular was the Women's Museum. The women were not left out in their role in Africa and around the world. There were many, besides African people from the continent, women from the continent, they also introduced us to many women of African descent who have been major contributors to events in the world. Goree Island. What can you say about Goree Island? Its history, the emotion that it brought up in everyone, to read about it, to, from an intellectual perspective, knowing, okay, door of no return, but to actually experience the door of no return, to go there, and what I consider to be a sacred place, was the most touching, emotional experience that you could ever have. To understand the slave house, how people were configured, how they were meshed into that dark room, and then to enter the door of no return, to go out into the great Atlantic Sea, throughout the world, to destinations unknown. As I'm speaking about it, I'm feeling the emotion and the sadness of the experience there. And many of us within the group were literally brought down to our knees and needed assistance in getting out. So, history brought to life major events like the slave trade. We also went to the home village of Kunta Kinte, and I met one of the gentlemen there said to me, I'm his 8th cousin removed, and grabbed my hand and escorted me around the island, and we got on a boat on the James River and to a fort out in the middle of the river, where it was explained to us that that was the place that the people captured Africans were taken because there were many crocodiles in those waters, and you could not escape them, besides it being very rough. And from that place, it was an exit point to Goree Island. So it was a stop along the trade route, I guess you could say, to during slavery. Again, very emotional. The historians that spoke to us on Goree Island, on Kunta Kinte Island, the historians that guided us on the boat to the James River, St. James River, were amazing. This historian that spoke to us on Goree Island as they guided us, not just in the slave house, but around the island. Facts and information is one thing, but to experience it is quite another. If you have the opportunity, if you are interested in the birthplace of humanity, if you are interested in the journey of Africans to the many destination points throughout the world, and if you're interested in the culture which we see reflected throughout the world to the many places where Africans were brought, and you return to the motherland. As myself, I came back, and I look at people differently. I don't see African Americans now. I just see Africans. And as I just mentioned to someone, along my work in the city of Camden in New Jersey, if I say to someone in the line at the grocery store or on the street, I went to Africa, you should see people's reactions to me. Because for many people, it just seems so far away and just a place that they could never come to. But I said the door of the return has been opened, and you can return. And you will be welcome. Thank you.
Now we gotta give a louder hands. You know, first time going back home. Now we don't have to tell her how to go back home. She has already went back, and she will continue to go back. So now it's time to do the opening prayer. Dr. Balde, you got to do the opening prayer. Dr. Balde was also one of the travelers last year, you know, to the maiden Daylight Africa Way. But what happened to Dr. Balde, Dr. Balde went, and then all of a sudden left us. And so we were, oh, I'm home, I'm in Dakar, I know this place better than you. And then Dr. Balde went different place, and it rained so much, he couldn't come down. So he stayed there for 2 days, and he missed a lot of things because it was what they call in Senegal, inundation. So you cannot move because of the water. And good for Dr. Balde. Dr. Balde, come and tell us your experience, but give us an opening prayer first. Dr. Abdullah Balde worked for the Department of Health, New York City Department of Health.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening. All the things belong to God Almighty. We also say, thank you, God, for everything you have given to me. We all have to say thank you. Thank you for everything. So we say, Alhamdulillah, all the things belong to God Almighty. Today is a special day. Why? We are in our home, our place. In the heart of Harlem. But you know, human being, every human being have good days. One day you happy, another one sad. That's life. Why I said that? Last week we lost a young boy, 11 years old, suddenly, 2-3 days, come school in the morning, don't come back, no. 3 days, 4 days later, we find him dead in the water. But God Almighty have every discipline for any human being. all know our date of birth, but nobody knows what is the day of death. For that, we should be, thanks God, be ready. You know, we all belong to God, and we all come back to Him. So that's why we said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Indeed, we all belong to God, and we all return to Him. So we may make prayer for this boy, all people who passed away from our different community, different family. May God Almighty accept them in the height of paradise. Amen. Allahumma aghfir lahu warhamhu, Allahumma aghfir lahu warhamhu, Allahumma aghfir lahu warhamhu. So for that, say I'm very happy to see our brother. I know the Council of Senegal, when we went last year, he was also with the ambassador of Senegal, almost whatever we did in Dakar. So we thank them for the host. May God bless them all. So we hope this beginning gonna be historical. Every year, by God's will, we will meet here and celebrate this day. We ask God Almighty to bless all and to make Africa as motherland, the most richest continent in the world. God bless you all. Salaam alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Balde. Now, Dr. Balde mentioned our Council General. Let me tell you what our Council General did leading up to the trip. We said we're not just going, by the way, before I continue, we have the Deputy Commissioner in our midst, and I want her to come. She knows who she is. I want you to come and sit right next to City Council General. Deputy Commissioner, come. I'm not calling your name, you know who you are. Then we'll call your name once you get here. She's also going to Senegal, by the way. So now we can talk to the Council General. She's our sister, Mia Sergeant. Come here, right here. Yeah, you sit over there?
Put me on the spot.
Absolutely. So three things the Council General did prior to us going. One of the coldest days, 2 years ago, Council General came as the first African diplomat to officially inaugurated Daylight Africa Week. Let's give him a hand. The first diplomat to officially endorse Daylight Africa Week and spoke eloquently about the need for such a program. A winter day in Harlem. That was number one. Number two, we told Council General, we don't want to just go to Africa for the sake of going. Everybody belongs to Africa. But when we say the African descendant, we're really referring to the transatlantic enslavement victims. And because of that, we want to have a special status agreed upon so that when we go there and come back, it will be substantive. And then we formulated 7 principles that we requested from our government. And the Council General was the first to say, I am on board. Let's give it up. Some of these people were there when we went to the United Nations to sign. And I will tell you where you can get that declaration, and you read it and you will know that it is perhaps the most profound linkage between the continent and its sons and daughters. Before this day today, I took my family to Wall Street. I took them to Broad Street. I took them to the New York Stock Exchange. And I saw them where the African slave auction market was prior to the New York Stock Exchange, where the Africans were the commodities being traded. I saw them in the spot, they couldn't believe it. And then I walked them to the New York Stock Exchange. I said, since 1792, this exchange has been here. But prior to being here, your great-great-great-grandparents were the commodities being auctioned. Man is here, wife is there, children is here, and you bid based on the strength, based on the livability, the health, the youth, and everything. And I did that so that when they come here, they will understand what it means for us to celebrate Africa's independence. The third thing that the Council General did was the force of diplomat to facilitate the travel. When we went to Dakar, they were happy, but in the middle of our presentation that was held by Terry Renee, African American woman in Senegal, the Senegalese government sent a representative. And the representative came and said, we want to apologize. We didn't know the magnitude of this program. But from this moment on, Senegal will take the lead in ratifying their authority. In the middle of the presentation, the representative came and said, we want to apologize, we didn't know. But all the legwork was done through his office, and there are more to come. I just want you to give credit where credit is due. And today, he's here as a diplomat. That tells you how viable he is, not only to his constituency, to the Africans in general and the Africa's interest. And so before we bring up another speaker, we want to bring him up. The man who started it, and the man who's behind it, and the man that we will rely on, even when he's no longer the Council General, maybe he's running for president, whatever, he will always be the founder of this program and will always be with him. So I want to introduce the Senegalese Council General to New York, Honorable Alhaji Ndaw.
Thank you very much for the kind words, Brother Musa. What a great crowd. It is an honor and a pleasure again to attend this gathering on this very symbolic day. Momentous occasion indeed. I did not expect it to be this format. I thought it was more of a relaxed kind of gathering where we just kind of come and mingle. So I did not prepare a speech, nor did I actually plan to speak. I thought it was just, I was just going to stop by and really, show my support to Brother Musa and, really take pride in all these great things that he's doing. This year, the African Union has chosen as a theme the implementation of the AFCFTA, which is the African Free Trade Agreement, which is planned to come in full effect in 2063. What we're looking to achieve is to make sure that we have no barriers between our countries and to have really a true free market in Africa. When we get to achieve that, and I was at a function earlier with the mayor, and we are very proud to see that the mayor is acting like this, as we all are. But what was great in what he said was that we have to take into account the fact that, many communities, nationalities here in the US, when they first came and have gotten to endeavor to get to these success stories, they were able to go back to their countries and make it better. What he was saying is that us as Africans, as African Americans, but Africans, to make it short, we have to all find a way to bridge the gap, although there is no gap in reality, to make sure that the opportunity that Africa can offer be available to Africans here in the US. As Brother Musa said, I'm the Consul General of Senegal in New York. I happen also to be the chair of the African Consuls General here in New York. We are actually also having a flag raising ceremony tomorrow, where we'll be downtown at Bowling Green, raising the flag of the African Union. So I hope you'll be able to attend, because I think it will be symbolic for us to come and show that we all are Africans and we all are proud to see the flag of our continent fly over the US. It's an opportunity for me to really herald, if you will, the spirit of this country, where you can be from any walk of life, you can be from any country, any culture, any nationality, any background, and assert yourself here in the US. So it's something that I really noticed with pride and pleasure, and I wanted to really mention that. So I hope you'll be able to join us tomorrow with the Mayor of New York and with all the other African Consuls General and the diaspora to come and raise together the flag of the African Union, which is the flag that represents all our countries. And what was great today was that the African Union was organizing the event at the South African Council General. But the Caribbean countries, which is the countries in the Caribbean, so the diaspora in the Caribbean also came and actually took part. So just to say that was an occasion, as it is here today, for all Africans to come together and to celebrate Africa Day. Thank you very much for making me part of this. I did not plan to speak, but it was really an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council General. Thank you so much. I want to bring up another person that travels with us. Where's Lillian? Where's Lillian? Is Lillian here? Right here. Oh, good. No, Lillian, come. Now, let me tell you a profound statement in connection to what Lillian will be testifying to. Lillian is a Nigerian American, professional, highly educated professional, independent businesswoman professional. 4 months ago, I was in Israel. And one of the meetings that I attended, a business meeting in Jerusalem, one of the Israeli officials made a statement that will never ever leave my head. What he said was, in Israel, because we don't have land, I want you to listen to the Africans. I want you to listen to this. He said, in Israel, because we don't have land, We use 95% of our brain with 5% of land. 95% of our brain because we only have 5% land. And guess what? I converted to Africa. We say we have 95% land and use maybe less than 5% of our brain. I'm saying this as a challenge to you. I'm saying it as a challenge to you. They use 95% because they have no land. Then they substitute land with intellect. And because of that, Israel is now one of the top 10 most innovative nations on the face of the earth. A tiny nation, one of the smallest nations in the world. Yet, among the top 10 most innovative nations, we have 54 African nations. Not a single one of them is in the top 30 most innovative nations. Yet, here in the United States, among all the immigrant groups, Africans are the most educated according to census, and among them are the Nigerians. Among them are the Nigerians. The most educated among all the immigrant groups. I'm saying this in calling Lillian to speak as a Nigerian American, so that we can develop also not 95 but maybe 50-50, so that our children will not risk their life traveling to the nations that depend on Africa for their development. So Lillian Kamanduda, as someone who went to daylight Africa, made a trip.
I can tell you the mischievous reason why we actually want to do this is before we get back. Every time since we came back, we want to tell everybody how I cried and cried and cried, and everywhere we turned, when we went to this lady, I cried. So he's always wanting everybody to know that. I think that's the real reason why he wanted me to come out here. And I thank you, Sheikh, for this Daylight Africa that we've all embarked on. My experience really, I can only say is divine, and I'm sure for everybody else, but I'll speak for mine because I only had 72 hours notice of this journey that I couldn't really figure out fully what it's about. Well, I got to the airport. That was my first, being an African and of course I'm a Nigerian, and I grew up in Nigeria, of course, so I know quite a bit quite a bit about Africa, seeing that I grew up in Africa. So we travel as a Nigerian and we always go home and we always take like 14 hours flight. But the first time we were going to Senegal in this journey, my first surprise was that first we were taking Air Senegal. Brilliant! I was totally blown away with the service that we got with Air Senegal. And ultimately, to find that it's actually 7 hours flight to Africa. That blew my mind. 7 hours flight across the Atlantic to Africa. I've never experienced that, and my people, I'm sure, nobody, we used to do like 12 hours to 16 hours. And we landed, it was so peaceful. Everything from the landing was so peaceful. The government, the assistance, as Sheikh is also let us understand that we are very supportive. The experience was just brilliant. Is it to talk about the food? Is it to talk about the places that we all went? That being said, you can imagine a Nigerian being in Senegal. So of course I felt at home. But at the same time, I'm like, why didn't I go to other African countries before coming to America, the one that I had in London? And so I said, oh my goodness, I'm sure that if I had done that, you know, and every one of us that are the African indigenous people of Africa, if you haven't done so, I say you should try going to other African countries. And I understand that to our people back home that's never been anywhere abroad. And I said, please do not try to come to Western world without visiting other African countries. I would feel proud. So many things. Now back to Nigeria. Of course, Senegal, I gave them the up, you know, the like there. I'll say they're the best so far. But I'm from Nigeria. I gotta bring it home. Please try. I said, Senegal is brilliant. Try starting over in Nigeria first. Nigeria, you would say, is like a melting pot. I mean, there is diversity beyond. I mean, if you go from the south to the east, to the north, to the west, you're like in a different country. And yet, there's one flavor they all have. There's this thing about Nigeria. Whether you're from the North Houses or Yoruba West or Igbo East, when they all stay in a room, there is this vibe that they all have the same. And then you say, these are Nigerians. So, and so is their places of interest in terms of tourism. I can't even begin to name them. There's a whole lot in Nigeria, and of course Africa as a whole. You all should really try, those that's never traveled to Africa, choose any of those, never mind it, but if you come to Nigeria, I'll be out. So try and make that visit. It will change your perspective for life in general. You will be born again, for real. Maria tested to that fact. You will literally be born again when you go to Africa and you visit all these interesting places, of course, the historic situation that we all are aware of when we talk about Africa. And so I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank Sheikh again and the people that's worked so tirelessly to make sure that the Light of Africa continues. And we've been the pioneers traveling. We will not go back. We're going to be traveling to so many other countries in Africa as Sheikh makes it possible. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Lillian. Now, Eunice, come here. Come sit next to your sister. Eunice is one of the founding members for Daylight Africa Week. Actually, the fourth person to print out t-shirts and flyers and everything, and just came back from Nigeria. And Eunice is a lawyer, by the way, and she's also, I think, a boxer or martial artist. So I just want to let you know. So Eunice right here, so I want to bring up, one more person. To talk about 2022 and 2023. This lady has been to Africa several times, has been sustaining charities and developing professionals on the continent. And last year, she hosted a movie premiere in Dakar, which people loved it, and I'm sure even when we went to Gambia, the Gambian government said they also need something like it. I think she's working on it, and we're excited about it. I want to bring up the founder of African American Women in Cinema, who also happened to win last year, Tara Renee.
appreciate you deeply and your leadership. To all of our co-founders of the Daylight Africa Week, honored and privileged to be here with you this evening. I am truly overwhelmed of the trip that we took last year. I was talking to some of my African colleagues and telling them my experience growing up in America, watching TV. Our vision of America was programmed or conditioned to us through the media. So shows like Tarzan, commercials of young African little babies crying with flies in their eyes, look like they're about 10 months pregnant. And as a result, many of us had no desire to go to Africa or even research the rich continent from which we came. And it was back in 2000, I believe, well, I'll just say early 2000s, I had the opportunity to go to Africa for the first time. I was invited by the president's daughter of Gabon. Wow. And I went there and I was so blown away. I went to the president's oldest daughter's house and I was stunned. I said, this is a house? Looked like a mall. 2 floors, marble floors, podiums. I couldn't believe it. I looked at the money and saw people on the money look just like me. Floored. I looked on the wine bottle. I saw the president of Gabon on the wine bottle. I was so inspired and so just proud from whence I came. And then when the opportunity came to go back to Africa, to Senegal and Gambia, I jumped at the opportunity and celebrated the 400th year mark since the first slave ship came to this country, 1619. And it was this particular trip when we went to Goree Island and saw, as Lillian had talked about to you all earlier, where our ancestors and where they were placed, and we heard how they were treated. It just melted my heart. But it's when we all got together and held hands, and our fierce leader began to speak, that's when I had the experience that changed my life forever. My heart became open of sorts, and I felt another level of freedom and liberation that I've never felt before. And ever since that day, I've never been the same. And it was an awesome opportunity to make history in showing films made by African Americans, but also feature a film made by an African woman. And then to have a panel for the first time, an African American woman, president, filmmaker, to talk with an African filmmaker and to share stories and to talk about it to an audience, that was miraculous. I will never forget these moments, and I certainly encourage you all to join us next time. You will come away with memories that will be priceless, that you can share with your loved ones and your family, that they can share for generations to come. This is nothing that a Hollywood producer can write. This is something that the Creator have already written. We just have to take our part. So I'm just grateful that this visionary, also with Matteo, picked out the time. Timing is everything. There is a group in the Bible, they're called the sons of Issachar. And I love reading about them because they knew the time and seasons in which they were living in and allowed them to make decisions. I really believe we are in a very unique time and season to understand where we came from, to embrace where we're going. There is a shift in the atmosphere. I felt it, and I hope that you do too. Thank you so very much. Thank you for this time.
Tara Renee, thank you, Tara. And, we're introducing these people that when, so that at least you understand the impact going to Africa, can have on anybody, especially those that are the victims of transatlantic enslavement, terrorism. So, I'm so as we continue to develop and more people begin, to frequently travel to Africa, then, the benefits will be felt, not only on the continent, but everywhere else. So I want to bring up one of our leaders here, in the diaspora. We were blessed, to have, one of the fastest growing, most educated young generation, right here in New York City, who are making things happen. These are movers and shakers, and they understand what time it is, and they know their responsibilities, and they know what to do to elevate their people. I want to bring up Dr. Bala, who was the chairperson for Community Board 5 in the Bronx, longer than most, chairpersons for this community board. And, Dr. was not only a medical doctor, but also one of the biggest diaspora organizers and empowerer that we have. And we're so excited to have him among us to greet us, Dr. Bola Amatoso. Also from what? Nigeria.
I didn't in Nigeria sit down. I didn't in Nigeria sit down. I didn't in Senegal sit down. I didn't in Ghana sit down. Gambia sit down. Mali sit down. Burkina Faso sit down. Should I continue? Thank you. Well, Sheikh, thank you for that remarks, but that's okay. If a French man doesn't know how to speak English, Africans will respect him. If a Russian man can't speak English, Africans will respect him. If a Portuguese man can't speak English, Africans will respect him. A Chinese man can't speak English, he will also be respected by Africans. However, if an African can't speak English, we as Africans, we will be the first to criticize him or her, that he's dumb, he's not intelligent, he's not illiterate, he's born, he's not illiterate, he doesn't know what he's doing. And with this mindset, we are all enslaved because we think we can't speak English. And at the same time, for the younger generation, we have young leaders here, like my brother sitting down there, like everyone around this table. They will tell us that here you will have to take English as a second language. And at the same time, with the privilege and honor that I have, practicing like my colleague there in the medical field, when someone is dying, they don't care to know whether you can speak English or not. They don't care whether you know what you're doing or not, as long as you are in that white coat and they want to stay alive. So we should understand where we came from, understand our humble beginning, and understand the progress that we've made and what we have contributed to the economies all over the world. Just let me step out of the box for a few seconds. I'm not going to take too much of your time. Just last year alone, the United Kingdom, talking about the country that colonized us, meaning majority of African countries, especially the West African, that is Britain, had 750 immigrants. Encourage them to come and work, encourage them to come in for education. And just today, they decided, oh no, they should no longer be coming with their family, except you are coming to do a PhD. So if they finish up to this moment, so today they made that announcement that coming year 2024 January, now you're going to study in Britain, you can no longer go in with your family except you're going in to study to do a PhD. They passed this law initially to encourage the universities to attract brain drain from the continent of Africa. Right? Now they felt they've had enough. Now they say, hey, stay back. Canada is so close to us, they have so many options for immigrants to come in. This country also has so many options for immigrants to come in through the visa lottery. I'm a beneficiary of that, not that I came by choice. But we don't really do it now. We pay taxes, like Sheikh, we always say, taxation without representation. I'm not putting myself down, it's Sheikh I'm quoting. Taxation without representation. What does that mean? That means you're the winner. So we should be able to sit at a table. African Airlines, I have the privilege of joining the company board and giving free service for up to a quarter of a century. That means as soon as I migrate to this country, I felt I have to contribute something to the community. It's in our DNA. So what Sheikh is doing today is in his DNA. Everyone present, everyone present here tonight is not by accident. It's because we care about our roots. I have the privilege also being the longest serving community board chair in the Bronx. I will spend 16 years. If you do it in terms of times, that means I spent 4 times. 4 by 4, 16 years as a community board chair. We don't discriminate. We don't ask whether you're black, brown, or this. But at the same time, we do know that it's high time that we have a place called Little Africa. If you are new with me, you can clap this Little Africa. If you do it wrong, it's not overdue. And I'm saying this because I know we have some of our, deputy commissioner here that will take it to the big boss. And we know a lot of folks who are influential here who is also let it known to the various community that when it comes before the city council, she's writing down all the commission list. When it comes before city council, we decide to have Little Africa in the Boogie Down Bronx. We've designated where it will be, but please, we want it to be passed before this time next year, where we'll be celebrating another African Day. Thank you so much, everyone. Point order, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Waller. Where is the Lawrence of Arabia? Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia, anybody who knows anything about Africa Santa, I would say 9 out of 10 times because of Lawrence. Lawrence, can you come here? And Lawrence was also from Nigeria. And I just want you to see the person that sent emails consistently and promoting Africa Santa before we knew anything about Africa Santa. Lawrence. Just breathe those 2 minutes, let people see your face. I will spend less than 2 minutes. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I, all protocols observed. I cannot begin to call the names of everybody I have met here and seen here at this time. All I can say at this time is, you are all welcome to the Africa Center. So I want to assure you, whenever you step into this space, feel at home. This is where you belong. We want to make this place as welcoming as possible, because it has been our dream. Where can we gather and talk about our issues? This is the right place. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lauren. I want to bring up one gentleman, and let me tell you that this is very impactful. The African community have been suffering with gang recruitment, gang radicalization, gang violence, and gang incarceration. If you don't believe it, talk to NYPD. African kids are joining gangs and doing what gang members do. I met this gentleman about 7 years ago. I'm a former gang member. Since we met, he has founded one of the most profound anti-gang programs in the city. And he has recruited so many people, and in doing so, he has been the most effective leader in removing our children from being recruited by gang members. I want to bring up my brother before he leaves. Tiny coming. And Tiny is the founder of India's New Direction. And Tiny, do it before you go. Come here. By the way, no, let me tell you something. I don't know if Tiny wants me to tell you or not. When Tiny met me, I was doing public safety dinners. Tiny stood up before the audience and said, prior to meeting Musa, I didn't care whether I live or die, because I didn't know the value of life. Since becoming friends with Musa, I don't want to die, because now I know the reason why I'm living. And he said, am I right?
Peace and blessings, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Musa for inviting me here today. And I just want to say this. I heard my sister Todd talk. And you know, when I growing up here in America, doing this white stereotype world we lived in, we would look at our brothers and sisters in Africa, and we would say to ourselves, I ain't going back there. They running through the woods killing lions and trying to eat buffalo meat and all that stuff. And here it is, I'm just trying to get me over here. But you know what though? During the last couple of years, being with Brother Musa, I am so proud and honored to meet you brothers and sisters who are beautiful, intelligent human beings. You do not reflect anything that's on those TVs or what we have been taught. And I am proud to stand here today as I don't believe in that African American thing. I'm a black man. And we're all black people. And next week, white America, I have another name for us, and then we're going to start calling us another name. But if we think of all of us as black people, they say the Latino community is the fastest growing community. That's because they all come together under a leverage. And they stick together. Why can't we come together? And Latinos are black too, but why can't we come together as a black community? So therefore, I am so honored and proud to stand here with you brothers and sisters. You understand, from Africa, because it has taught me we're not running from the war. And we're not running life. And our brothers and sisters, they come from a continent that is so rich that every other different country has been trying to take their wealth. So there's got to be something good about us. But there's one thing Musa just said. I am a former gang member from the 70s. The Black Spade was one of the largest street gangs in the city of New York. And today, this is what I do. I'm still a Black Spade in my heart. And my organization is called TBS New Direction. Black Spade is the new direction. But there's one thing I would like everybody in this room to do, to take back with them when they leave this room. Our kids out there are dying. And our kids, our African kids, our Puerto Rican kids, our Black American kids, we're fighting each other. We can stand here in this room and come together as one. But when we go out there in that world, not outside the world, our kids are standing together. And you gotta remember, our brothers and sisters, that the kids are coming from Africa, they're now starting to be Americanized. So they're starting to act just like American kids. But we got to sit them down. And we got to teach them that we're all one. This is why we still host our public safety dinners. We have one coming up June 1st at the Church of Scientology, where we bring politicians, police officers, clerks, everybody together. And we know the problem, but we're trying to find solutions. And I also bring organizations that provide events for our kids for free. Because as I stand right now, I can't even pay my rent. Okay? So imagine when our kids trying to pay just to get a skill or a trade. So I bring programs together that provide free training, job corps, we have. And I just met some sisters, I just met as an event today for clergy. I'm not clergy. Don't put that on me yet. But I was at an event this morning where they're opening a literacy school and they're bringing in children. They're trying to recruit children. It's only in the Bronx right now. So I'm going to have them start speaking at our dinners because they're trying to recruit. And the more they recruit and their waiting list is longer, maybe they'll get more money from the city to bring more people in to educate our kids. So by all I say, thank you, Musa, for having me here. Thank you to my brothers and sisters tonight, showing me that what I have been taught and seen on TV is not what it's all about. But like I said, when we leave this room, let's not forget our kids on the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiny. We have several speakers. Do not leave. Time. Yes, the time. But let me bring up Queen Mother. We have three more speakers, but let me bring up Queen Mother. Because Queen Mother left the Daylight Africa, and Queen Mother, by the way, if you ever travel to Africa with Queen Mother, I don't care how strong you are, Queen Mother will outrun you. And everybody know Queen Mother, everybody. Let me call her the leader, before we end. Okay, Queen Mother.
That's who we are, our family. And we all are running as united one Africa. That's what's happening this evening. What has been said, Queen Mother was a part of witnessing all day today. First, check. I started on Wall Street, where my ancestors were sold. I spent today on Wall Street, one of the most powerful days of my life on Africa Day. When I look at the energy of duality, I would use duality. Check Musa. Good and evil, day and night. What goes around comes around. Up down. And I can go on with duality. That is the human experience. It is the African experience. As the mother of civilization, I'm just returning from Morocco. I've been with African scholars, young people from Africa, discussing and shaping the Africa they want. What a journey for me to have been on that for 7 days. And prior to that, doing Ramadan, check on my left and check on my right, to my doctor on my left and the doctors on my right. I had the opportunity to sit at the Nile this year, the blue and white Nile, in prayer and reflecting, starting in Sudan. 4 days in leaving, the war broke out. But it was meant for me to be on the blue and white Nile during Ramadan. Had the opportunity at Asabal, Ethiopia, and Addis. When I reflected of myself, who I am as the Queen Mother, North, South, East, and West, and Center, or Central Africa, is my bloodline. In my DNA, there is no European blood. As the Queen Mother, representing 55 million displaced Africans of the transatlantic ocean of the slave trade, I say to President Joe Biden, it was an honor receiving the Lifetime Award. It was an honor going to Parliament in the UK, Zone 1, in the Lords of London to receive an award. But in the spirit of my people, in the spirit of my ancestors, coming from the royal court of Harlem, it is appropriate that we were in Harlem. Royalty from all over the world have been to Harlem. Crown Prince Charles been in my royal court. Now he's the king. But he came as the crown prince with Camilla. Before him, Lady Di came. Harry and Meghan can't get enough of Harlem, the royal court. And as I said to the world, I come from great kings and queens of Africa, the kingdom of Kush. My bloodline, my ancestors, between Egypt and Sudan, restoring, rebirth, for us to return home. From Wall Street, where they've been stolen and sold from the transatlantic ocean of the slave trade. And for God, Allah, given Sheikh Musa a vision in East Africa, which I am now Iwam Moled. I'm a Messiah. Throughout Africa, Queen Mother been given many names for a reason and a season. Yes, I'm born October 1, the independence of Nigeria. If God would have it, I will be celebrating with Ife my 80+ Earth Day in Nigeria. Being in a slave house in a place called Gore in the Cape Coast for 3 days and 3 nights. My sacred memory is 3. And with 3, we operate from and give the rebirth we're looking for from Mother Africa. And I leave on these notes with you as we will be gathering at the United Nations. The end of this month, African descendants, permanent forum at the United Nations to June 2nd. One of the large gathering of us coming together to discuss our destiny and of inclusion of Region 6 of being involved from the African Union. With the rich history of my ancestors allowing me to go north, south, east, west, and central, and sharing the life with many of the African of the diaspora, African nationals, of languages and cultures we will never know. And on that note, because time is upon us, I beg of you to return home to the soil of Mother Africa with Daylight Week. It is an experience you will never forget of returning home as one Africa. One Africa. One Africa. And I will say to all of you in the spirit of my ancestors, Ashe, Ashe,
Thank you, Queen Mother, in the sake of time, because we were supposed to start 6, unfortunately we started 1 more than an hour late. We have a lot of food. Please do not leave, you can even enjoy it now, because we have, 3 more speakers to give us, 1 minute before we end. But the food, please, you can enjoy the food. But let me bring up, we have David Kuli, but I want you to come along with Sadiq, 2 of you to come, before we bring up the Deputy Commissioner and Eunice. But please, in the meantime, you can enjoy the food while we're listening to the last 3 speakers.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It is really great. Again, my name is Siddiqui Danza, the chair of the African Advisory Council of the First Borough President Office. Now, it is interesting, Chef Musa, I want to commend you for what you've been doing in the money and what you actually know. You know, just a short story, I went to school with an African American that we became a very close friend. And every time we talk about going back to Africa, he said, "Brother, if you go back to Africa, you're going to get sick. So you need at least your vaccination to go to Africa." So through our conversations, we was able to go and visit Africa. They went up for the first time, went up for the second time. So the third time, me and my son met, when we started talking, he said, "Guess what, Sadiq?" I said, "Why?" He said, "When they call me, don't call me African American, call me African. I will call you African American." I said, "Why?" He said, "You've been for 15 years, you never know, and I've been there as recent as last year." So even his wife married an African in Ghana. Wow. So I'm saying this to convince every other person that's over here, please, Africa is open to everybody. Go and see for yourself. Don't mind the media. The media might portray it in a different way. Go and see Africa for yourself. Go in and visit Africa. And we are here. If you need help, we'll definitely open our hands for you. Thank you. Thank you.
I know folks are eating, but as you eat, please pay attention to what we're going to be saying quickly. That's very important. I just want to really clarify and make it very clear who this gentleman is. We recently had our Advisory Council election, and Sidiki Donso is now the chair of the Borough of the Bronx African Advisory Council chairperson. That means if you're looking for anything, the AAC is the umbrella organization for the Bronx. Anything you're looking for, this is the person to go to. Again, my name is David Koulibaly. I did not start by introducing myself. I am the Director of Community Services at the Office of the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson, who couldn't be here today. As you know, yesterday we celebrated the Bronx Taste of Africa. That was a unique event that was never done in the history of the Ghana. So the idea is to really continue to promote and uplift our community. And today is one example of that as well. So I got a quick speech that I'm going to give. It's going to be like 2 minutes because it's very important. It's kind of like summarize what every single person I've said before me, either Dr. Bola, the mother, Short Muslim Padrami, opening speech was very, very good and very on point. So I'm going to say it again, the Bronx President, Vanessa Gibson, extend her greetings to you. But unfortunately, she couldn't be here today. Today, as Short Musa said, marks Africa Day. May 25th is the actual day. As we know, so many people are trying to do the same thing, which is good. We need to continue to promote and create visibility. So today is a day of celebration, a day of reflection for all Africans and those African descent around the world. As we gather here today, we must take a moment to acknowledge the unique challenges that face the African immigrant community in the United States. So African immigrants in the United States, we are facing a whole lot of issues in the United States. As the Director of Community Affairs of the Bronx Borough President, I have seen firsthand the difficulties that many African immigrants face, from language barrier to cultural differences and lack of political representation. Dr. Bola talked about the lack of political representation. Despite being one of the fastest growing communities in America, we have no representation, and that's one of the issues as well. But united, we can overcome these challenges. We must come together as a community to uplift one another and support each other. We must stop all the internal how we struggle and stay focusing on working together. Folks back on the continent should look at us and inspire them. If we unite to work together, we make it even more powerful. So today let's celebrate the many contributions that our community are making here in the United States. We're here to stay. And Dr. Bola said he came here first day and he felt the need of joining because he wanted to make sure that his community mattered. And I'm proud to be the only African ever in the history of going down to serve in a very strategic position as the Director of the Services. Kudos to the African Center. I'm so happy the Borough President couldn't be here, but she does have a citation of merits for the African Center. Do we have any representation from the African Center? African Center. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Lawrence Davis. Vanessa L. Gibson, President of the Borough of the Bronx, present this citation of merit to the African Center in recognition of your work and effort to lift the African community in the Borough of the Bronx and in New York City on the occasion of the African Day celebration. Your efforts to strengthen your community through creativity and compassion works are worthy of considerable praise. And today, the Bronx joined with so many others to offer accolade for your dedication and passion for your community and the work that you do, highlighting African culture. For these reasons and more, we are proud to call you one of our own on behalf of more than 1.4 million residents who call the Bronx home, and that's where you have the largest African community. Vanessa L. Gibson, President of the Borough of the Bronx, salute you and wish you continued success. Congratulations. I'm going to give this symbolically to our chair to pass it over to the African Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David Coulibaly. Our team did deserve it, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you to the Borough President for their leadership. We are grateful. Thank you.
Don't move. Can I go in front for 1 second?
Eunice, and we also come, and then we have our last speaker while you're eating, our last speaker who also went with us for the first time, to Africa. So Shurina come, and Eunice come. And then after that, Shurina will do the closing as someone who also went with us.
Mayor here, so we need you right here. On behalf of, well, first of all, let me just say that when Sheikh Musa called, we all answer. Isn't that the truth? And when my brother Sheikh Musa said we have to support Mayor Adams, guess what I say? All president accounted for. So when he said we're going to the Africa Center, all president accounted for. And today on Africa Day, we celebrate all 54 thriving nations. And we're super excited with all the work that is being done in New York City, the largest of the African diaspora right here in New York City, represented by Mayor Eric Adams. We thank you, Sheikh Musa, for your leadership. We thank the African Center, our dignitaries, our council generals. Please give yourself a big round of applause. So I am going to put in a very quick commercial break. And as our downtown where we just heard Wall Street, and we're asking you that you join us, please, at Bowling Green. I know Eunice is going to be with us. She's always helping us coordinate. And we ask that you be there at 2 o'clock, between 2 and 2:30. Queen Mother, I know you've been there with me for a couple of the flag raising. And Ashe, 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 my Queen Mother. And thank you. I just wanted to just say, we hope to see you tomorrow, and we thank you for all that you do to make sure that as we celebrate Africa, we celebrate it not just today, but every day and every moment.
Thank you so much, Deputy. I just want to Sheikh Musa, thank you. Thank you, Sheikh Musa, thank you. So I just want to urge real quick, I just want to urge everyone in this room, please join Africa Daylight, okay? Join Africa Daylight to visit Africa. I'm telling you. You don't want to go there by yourself. You don't want to go visit Africa by yourself. Let's go in groups. That's the best thing ever. Please. I urge everyone in this room, join Africa Daylight. Let's go and visit Africa. It doesn't matter where, it could be Ethiopia, Gambia, Nigeria, it doesn't matter. They have 54 continents in Africa. Let's do it, guys, please. Let's come together as family. As family, let's do it. I know we can do it. They have so many business opportunities, When you go there, you can do what you want to do. But you have to visit Africa first and see the opportunity, okay? So join Africa Daylight. Let's go there, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Yone. So now we're going to invite our last speaker, Sharina, who also went for the first time to Africa to give testimony. Sharina.
My memories of Africa are haunting, to say the least. But don't get me wrong, we all had a truly marvelous time visiting prominent and historic sites, houses of worship, museums, and fine dining. Woo! But what hit home for me was our visit to Glory Island. You see, I was one of those naive ones that refused to believe that humanity stemmed from Africa. Glory Island and the slave house serves as a powerful and poignant reminder of human exploitation at its best. Slave trading was rampant from the 15th century to the 19th century. Millions of slaves were brought to the island and held in captivity to be shipped off to various parts of the world. They were kidnapped, imprisoned, chained, and forced to congregate in overcrowded cells. One cell kept only women, another virgins, who were sold for more money, of course, while another only children who were raped repeatedly. And the tiniest cells were kept for the rebellious ones who were crammed on top of one another with no windows. The other cells only had slits for windows. Slits, people, slits like this. Food and bathroom was limited to once a day. Walking in the footsteps of our ancestors was eerie. Standing in the doorway of no return was agonizing. It is inhumane to fathom all of the suffering that was endured by our ancestors. Today, we stand on their shoulders because of that endurance, because of their pain, because of their resiliency. My brothers and sisters, let us be thankful for what we have today and never be ungrateful to those that came before us. Let us always remember our roots and respect where we came from, for they have been the sacrificial lamb. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. I know if we had more time, we would have gone from more leaders back. We would have had the time, but we're very, very grateful for the turnout. We're very, very grateful for Africa Center, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to really talk about what we need to talk about. Thank you all very much. And I want to give shout out to Miss Immigrants. Miss Immigrants, they're back there. Raise your hand. So Miss Immigrants, they're there from the beginning. So we welcome you and thank you so much. And Fatima Jara from the United Nations, thank you so much. And all the leaders who represent different organizations, thank you for coming. And Edward Thomas and Edward's crew, thank you so much. You know, we see you. And the peace lights, by the way, those lights you see signing there, that's peace lights. And the founder, the creator is right there. You know, Peter Regina. So for the past several years, he has been designing, you know, lights so that we can have peace in the world. And those lights represent peace globally. So thank you so very much and happy Africa Day. And if you need to go to Africa, let me know. Because the window for joining us open today and we can help you with your airline and everything. Thank you and God bless you.